Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. I don't know about you, but more than once in a while, I feel like making photos, especially on a schedule for YouTube videos, can feel like a grind. It feels like I'm making photos to make photos. And while I think that's a really good thing, I know that getting out to create is super helpful in so many ways in my life. So I'm really, really grateful for that. But sometimes it's good to take a pause. And that's what I'm going to do today. So, what I'm going to do today is talk about 11 photos that I've selected from the previous 3 months that I'm going to use both as a reflective moment. So, okay, this worked, but I'm also going to use it for helping me think ahead. And here's what I mean by thinking ahead. So, I've been to downtown Bellevue. If you follow this channel, you know I've been there a whole bunch of times. And I'm almost feel like at times I've seen all that there is to see. But I know that's not true. And these photos, what they do is they help me look at things in a different way and look at what I've already done so I can find a new way to do something in a same location that I visit over and over again. Additionally, I can think of ways that I can take a photo that I've made and try and find a similar situation and even make it stronger, more compelling, do something more interesting in the photo in that same location. So that's my goal in this reflection, is to think about what I've noticed in the past, how I can use it in the future, what worked in the past, and what maybe I found frustrating or didn't work, either from a technical or a composition standpoint, and then use that again as I'm looking forward. So I hope you'll find this helpful. What I'm going to do is, as I mentioned, I have 11 photos here. I'm going to talk briefly about each one. You'll see the camera used, the lens, and the settings. I'll talk about them, and I hope you find this helpful. So we'll begin with the first photo, which is from downtown Bellevue. And specifically, it's in the downtown Bellevue Park. And I photographed this quite a bit. And if you're a keen observer of this channel and remember the video I did back in April with a similar review process, I had a photo from this same location. It was slightly different, but it was not all that different. One of the things I really like about this location in downtown Bellevue Park with this new sculpture that's very metal, but it's very organic at the same time, is there's so many possibilities to photograph here. I photographed it on cloudy blue sky days like this, on clear blue sky days, on gray days, on rainy days. There's lots of atmosphere to change the composition. There's lots of different perspectives you can get in different lenses to see those different perspectives. So that's what's happening here. It's a wide angle photo. It's 16 millimeters on a blue sky sunny day using the sculpture at the top to frame the single high-rise building across the street. I like this photo because it's a little bit of what is that? In fact, I had this up. I have this as my wallpaper on my computer, and I had it at work. And one of the other sales folks walked by and goes, "What is that?" And I said, "What it is." And he went, "Oh, I didn't know that." So I really like this. It's a bit of a mystery, which I think adds interest to a thing that's really easy to photograph in a way that is common. And I try to find in my photos something a little different in the composition that maybe everybody else doesn't see. So this reminds me to keep doing that. Photo number 2 is inside a building. Actually, it was a break for hot chocolate. And I noticed this gentleman talking on his phone. And this balloon type installation was next to him. And it's currently not there anymore. So this is a neat alignment of things that were very temporary. And if you repeat your visit to a location often enough, there will be changes in these little ways. And then all of a sudden, all the pieces may line up for a photo. So I think that's what happened here. I kind of like how the balloons look like a thought bubble coming out of him as he's talking on his phone. So that was my thought as I was framing this up. And again, the reminder here is even in the same place, things change. Photo number 3 here in the Bellevue Transit Center in downtown Bellevue. I like this because we have 3 people, but they're all separate. They're all engaged in their own thing on their phones. There's a little bit of commentary here because I know I have my head down in my phone quite a bit. So a reminder that even though we're in this all together, we tend to separate ourselves. So So one of the takeaways for me in this photo is to remind myself to think wider. I'll often isolate a single subject. I like that for a whole lot of reasons, but this photo reminds me it's okay to go wider because then you get a little bit more context. It's a little more complicated in creating these types of compositions for me, but when they work, I'm really, really glad that I made them because it's something I don't do very often. So it reminds me to keep stretching, to go ahead and go a little wider in my compositions and see a little bit more of the scene. This is another example of when things align. So this gentleman in the orange jacket talking on his phone, lined up with the orange wall and the orange chairs, just worked really nicely, I thought. So he was all alone. There was nobody else this day. It was a little bit cloudy and not super warm. So again, this isolation tends to be a recurring theme in my photos and will probably be the theme of my next zine. So finding photos like that, I just find fascinating. Again, even though we're in this big world all together, oftentimes there are lots and lots of moments when we're by ourselves. Next two photos are going to be from the Transit Center in downtown Bellevue, the relatively new building. And this photo is with the XT50. All the other photos were with the XH2S when I had so this photo was made when I had a chance to try out the XT50 before it was released with the XF16 to 50 millimeter. I really like the geometry here, the graphical nature of the roof and the transparency of the roof itself. So the sun was shining, as you can see here, and was playing around with sun stars a little bit and trying some different compositions. So again, for me, this is a reminder that atmosphere really changes the look of a place. So this looks different on a sunny day than a cloudy day, at night, during the day, and reminder to come back and see what it looks like in different conditions. Also in the transit center, playing again with light and textures a little bit. They have a lot of panels that are translucent and transparent. So getting almost a stained glass window look here with the light on the ground, the shadows and reflections. Very graphical. I really like photos like that as well. So this photo is a reminder to me as I'm looking ahead to look at how light is playing with elements in different ways and how it's going to look different and transform both seasonally and even every day during different times of day. So watching how light changes the scene is really, I think, a powerful reminder to me to even, again, I'm going to use this theme a lot in this video today. Even though I've been there a lot, it's different every time. So this reminds me of that more than a little bit. Speaking of a little bit wider photos, this one is 50 millimeters, but I'm a long way away from this gentleman doing some window washing on this newly constructed high-rise. I usually will get out the 70 to 300 for a photo like this because I love getting as close as I can to these people up very, very high, but I realize that doesn't show the scale and the context nearly as well as a wider photo that gives you a sense of how high off the ground this person is. So again, the reminder, get wider, get out of your comfort zone of being close to things either with a telephoto lens or physically, and be wider, show more of the context. Again, for me, creating compositions like this is harder because I tend to see more two-dimensionally than three-dimensionally with foreground, midground, and background. But I like the challenge, and when I feel really good when I get a photo that is something a little different than what I've done quite frequently. So this photo is the reminder for that. One of the things I enjoy doing in street photography is I like to include a human element, but I like to both respect the privacy of the person as well as create more of a symbolic human element. And by that, I mean, it's not a specific person. That way, I think it allows people when they're looking at the photo, I know when I look at photos and it's not a specific person, I can bring more of myself to the story, more of my story to interpreting what I think this photo is all about. So that's what I'm trying to do here in this photo through a grimy, transparent part of a bus partition, waiting for a bus here. And I think this accomplishes that. There's again layers here, which I really like, and there's a lot of abstract, which I also really like. For my style of street photography, which is we all have our own style, this is, I think, a really good example of what I'd like to do more of. More abstract, lots of textures, not necessarily specific to any one city. This could be almost any modern city in the world that has people standing in front of dirty window type things. So that's what I like about it. And a reminder to keep doing more of this, to be aware of them, look for them, and hopefully include more of them in future photos. Number 9 here, this is one of my favorite from this batch. And if I'm honest, I don't remember noticing the background and how well it worked with the foreground. So with the person waiting with their bike in silhouette, I just noticed that. I don't think I really noticed consciously that the signs behind also had bikes on them, but it works really nicely. So I have a theory about photos like this, and here's what it is. At least for me, I think this is true. I think I have two parts that of my brain I see with. I have my unconscious, subconscious mind that I think notices more than my conscious brain does. I think in some ways I'm an intuitive photographer, and by that I mean I know there's something there. It'd be hard to put a name to it right at the moment, and then I'll go ahead and click because something's telling me to make a photo, and then I'll get a photo like the one I just showed you. So this photo here. If I'm honest, again, I don't think I saw the poster in the background, the sign in the background with the bike on it. I just saw the person with their bike. But I like to think my subconscious brain did see all that and said, "Ooh, there's a photo here, so pause and go ahead and create this photo." Again, these elements don't line up very often, but upon repetition, going to the same place over and over again, you increase your odds that you'll find some photos like this. So even though I'm at times, oh, I'm going back to Bellevue, photos like this remind me, ooh, I'm going back to Bellevue. Let's see what I can find this time. And this is another little bit of example like of that, in that this building that the gentleman's walking in front of is new. It's completed in the past 6 months or so, and it only looks this specific way with the light shining on it in a very small window of time during the year and even during the day. So my lesson in this photo, in addition for light changing and being aware that as these new buildings are completed, there'll be new photo opportunities, is to remind myself to sometimes wait. I hung around in this location for probably 10 to 20 minutes. I noticed the light first, and then I noticed people were walking by occasionally. So I have a whole sequence of photos of different people walking by, and I really like this one of this gentleman because he's got his coat slung over his shoulder. It's doing something a little different as far as a gesture that's not quite the usual. So again, minding myself, hang out and wait sometimes, and something will often happen. And then lastly, this photo was made most recently of all these photos. In fact, from the last video I did with the TT Artisan AF 27mm f2.8 lens. And I like this photo so much because it combines a couple of things I really like in photos, which is a human element as well as a non-specific human element. We've got a construction person, but we're not seeing a face, we're seeing them doing work, and so it's not a specific person. And then we have the graphic element of the fence sign that I'm looking through its transparency that creates some literal leading lines, look here, look there. So it's kind of a neat moment that I really, really like photos like this. And again, another reminder to be aware of these changing elements. This building is being remodeled. It's been under construction for about a year. And these signs out front have changed and they look a little different every time. So there's different opportunities and different activities happening beyond. So even though it looks mostly the same, every time you come back, there will be some differences in the details. So there you have it, 11 photos from the past 3 months, some thoughts on them. Did you notice any themes? I mean, I kind of did as I was talking about them. The reminders to myself that in the details, there will be changes. So there will be different people, there may be different signage, there will be different light, there will be different atmosphere, even though I'm returning to the same location. Lots of powerful reminders, and I'm now a little more excited to go back to Bellevue, which I'll be doing later this week, than I was yesterday. So this process of reflecting on photos and examining them and taking time to be intentional about lessons learned and things you want to do different next time has been really helpful to me. I hope you've enjoyed this process a little bit. I'm curious to know what your process is, if you have one, for doing something similar about reflecting on your photo. What processes or methods do you use to take intentional time to reflect on previous photos? I'd love if you'd share those in the comments below. There's always something new for us to learn from each other, and I'm really glad for the opportunity to have conversation with you about it. So thank you very much. So that's all for now in this video. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video when I'll be back in Bellevue doing some walking around and making photos. So until I see you in that next video, I hope you stay safe, stay well, and have fun creating photos. Bye for now.